I am João Pernão. I'm a teacher and researcher at the Faculty of Architecture, University of Lisbon in Portugal. And first, I would like to thank Tamar and all the organization for inviting us, me and my colleague and friend José Aguiar, to be with you this afternoon and to contribute to this Congress. This lecture is about light and color, and its title is The Role of Light and Color in Architectural Perception. These two elements, light and color, are always intertwined, and it's impossible to talk about one without referring the other. So we are going to talk a little bit about color and afterwards light, and then I will show you some examples of our work for projects, protocols with our university. I'd like to start with this citation from Le Corbusier about the relationship between light and color. The search for space, light, joy, serenity invites us to appeal to color, daughter of light. I think this is very exemplar to reveal the relationship between these two concepts of light and color. Another citation, this time from painter Patrick Heron, which is cited by Michael Lancaster in his book Colorscape. For the human eye, there is no space without its color, and no color that does not create its own space. When you open your eyes, the texture of the entire visual field consists of one thing, and that is color. So, first, you have to have light. And if you have light, everything you see is color. The first step for any color study is to make a rigorous color survey describing the conditions of the actual pre-existence. This is very important, and the key is to be sure to register the colors with a standardized color system. And this is fundamental to make a definitive historical record that could be understood all over the world and discussed in the future. And this is very important because most of the records that we have about colors of the past is they are subjective, based on color naming, like yellow, red, etc. But we don't know really which colors were at that moment on those surfaces. As an example, I'm showing to you a work that I've done for Fortress of Santiago in Funchal, Madeira, Portugal. And we know that this building have had a lot of different colors in the past. And the decision is which color to apply for the future. How can we inform the architect to make this decision? From the color survey, we detected a lot of different colors, and this way we could make a kind of archaeology of color, measuring the various layers of paint from the past to the present. All these information from the survey, meaning the codification of every layer of paint from past to present will inform decisions for today and can inform decisions in the future. Other example is a color study that we are doing, me and José Aguiar, for the Teatro Nacional de São Carlos in Lisbon, which in our memory was always yellow, but we find some examples, some engravers that describe the theater, the front facade theater of having this bluish green color. Restoration of the facade of the theater is underway, and we found evidence of this old grayish green or blue color, and we were able to measure it, and now we are going to propose to paint the original color of in the facade of this 18th century theater. Another example of color study in heritage building. In this case, it's the City Hall of Évora in Portugal. This is the main facade, how it is today. Founded on some evidences of the past, we are going to redo or clean some of the bad decisions that have been made through the years, and to restore the dignity of the entrance, and try to restore the continuity of the relationship from the building with the street. For the facade, and rooted on our historical research, we have produced three different options for the client to choose. The first option will be to clean the surfaces and to apply the same colors and to dignify the entrance with these painted elements of the past. The second will be to take the colors of the granite stone that we have on the bottom of the building and on some of its elements, and to paint the same color on the classical ornamental structure of the facade. This is something that we in Portugal use a lot. When we don't have money, we fake the stone. So this is also rooted of our experience and what we've found from the past. The third will be a totally different option, because we found a picture where the ornaments and the classical structure of the facade were inverted, meaning the ornaments were lighter than the main element of the surface of the facade. And knowing that it only could be ochre or oxide red, we found from the picture that is lighter than the oxide red, so it should be an ochre, a light ochre like this. This is an integrated project for the restoration of the wall at Lagos, Portugal. The color survey reveals the colorilogy of the place. It was a remarkable coincidence of color tonalities between natural stones, wall stones, and mortars, a yellow with 30% of red. This monochromatism allow us to propose the color for the restoration of the mortars. Here is a simulation before the intervention and after. Light is the origin for our visual perception. If you don't have light, you don't see, so you don't know what is happening. We rely on our visual system for more than 80% of the information that comes through our senses to our brain. So we need light because we need to know what's around us. In the book of Genesis, God said, "Fiat lux, let there be light." And that's the moment where chaos ended. Everything was organized after the coming of light. So, light is very important to visual perception and very important to our relationship with the world. We need light to see, but what we see depends on light, meaning that if light has different characteristics, we will see things differently. We will see different colors in the objects if the light has different characteristics. It's important to understand, since we don't have natural light at night, of course, we decide which elements of architecture to reveal with artificial light. These are the elements to consider when using artificial light. What kind of light source? If it is incandescent, fluorescent, LED, etc. How many light sources? This is very important. What position in space? I mean, which distribution of light in space? In what direction should I point my light? With what intensity? What kind of beam? Meaning direct, indirect, focused, broad, diffuse, or hard? Which color temperature? A warm color? A cold color? Which CRI? CRI is color rendering index, meaning which every illuminant has a different way of revealing colors, and we have to choose the illuminant for this also. And in the end, we have to choose the adequate light fixture design for every situation. These are different light sources from the laboratory of color of our faculty, and we can see incandescent, fluorescent, LED or RGB, and below we see a low pressure vapor sodium lamp, and I will show you what happened to colors with each one of these illuminants. This incandescent lamp has a low color temperature, is a warm light. This is a warm color temperature compact fluorescent lamp. you see that comparing to the incandescent lamp, the color temperature is more or like the same, but colors are somewhat different. Here is something different. It's a LED lamp with a high color temperature, meaning very cold white light. This is an LED lamp with a low color temperature. This color temperature is more or less the same of the incandescent and the fluorescent, but as you are going to see, the colors, meaning the color rendering index, is different. So this is the comparison of colors. You can see there are little differences between some of them, and a big difference between different color temperature of the LED with 6500 Kelvin. Even with the same color temperature, if we have different illuminants, we will have different colors. And this is also because the spectrum, the color spectrum from each illuminant is different, as you can see. Daylight and incandescent are continuous, but you have this fluorescent with this peak on the green and on the orange. You see the halogen, which is incandescent also, is a more continuous, and you see that LED has always a peak on blue and with very low reconnaissance on reds. This is a different kind of lamp. We have three groups of diodes, red, green and blue, and we can activate a different ensemble of these diodes. I am just showing the difference in the colors of these cards with the RGB lamp. This is a low pressure sodium vapor lamp, and as you can see, all these colors become indistinct. You cannot distinguish one from the other because this lamp has a very low color rendering index. Now I am going to turn on the light from the LED tubular on the ceiling, and I will get this out, and you can see colors again. As you can see, you have a monochromatic color spectrum on low pressure sodium, and above you have a tungsten incandescent, and you can see a continuous curve throughout all these colors. Another example, from colors to yellow monochromatic of sodium low pressure. So this is a complex world, the light. And what about light in architecture? Well, architects usually define their spaces thinking of natural light. And what happened to their buildings at night? Very often the presentation of architecture at night, its colors and textures, and more importantly, its aesthetic goals are lost or changed by the options that most of the times raised from electrical engineers. So, as this light is a complex world, um, architects uh, don't make many choices regarding the options that they have about illuminating their buildings. And this is completely wrong. We have technical issues about artificial light, we have regulations, we have economics, but architects should make their options regarding to the aesthetic presentations of architecture. Because buildings and the city at night is only revealed by artificial light. So it's very important for us to think about this and make our own options regarding the hierarchy and the issues of prominence or continuity between architectural elements. You can see in this example, it's a square in downtown in Lisbon, and this statue is the center of this important square, and you can see it during the day. But during nighttime, you cannot see the statue. So we have here an inverted hierarchy, something that is very important during daytime. It's completely uh, absent at night. Light can also break the unity of a square, as you can see with the illumination of these two floors of those two buildings. Light can disrupt the rhythm of a building and create its own rhythm, as you can see on this 18th century building in Baixa, Lisboa. Again, inverted hierarchies from day to night. Statues and the elements that are very important during day, they disappear during nighttime. Form, color, texture, and materiality are the grammatical elements of architectural presentation, and therefore of the architectural communication. So, when dealing with heritage buildings, we should not overlap our idiosyncrasy or aesthetic will with an architecture that asks only to be respected and communicated as originally conceived. The pretext of illuminating an heritage building should not be taken as an opportunity to show our aesthetic concepts and our idiosyncrasy. If you are the architect of a new building, you can conceive color options and uh, colored light for the night and other strong options, but you should not apply idiosyncratic ideas into heritage. During the day, we have a single object, and during the night, we have two separate objects. The different color temperatures cut the building into parts, and even the emphasis on the interior of the bell tower, just to show the bells, is completely inadequate and does not correspond to its presence during daylight. So this is completely wrong. If it is for an ephemeral situation, it's okay. But the night illumination of an heritage building should be discreet and adequate. This is an experiment from General Electric in the 1920, and on the upper part of the image you can see Lincoln's face, and on the left illuminated like during daytime from from up downwards, and at right you can see the opposite. It's a light put down upwards, and you can see the difference between the expression of the face of Lincoln, and in the bottom you can see the same principles but applied to architectural ornaments. And you can see also the difference between the natural lighting at left, up, down, and the inverted uh, down, up illumination on the right. So what we do when we put lights on the floor is uh, to invert the natural presentation of architecture. So please don't do this. Don't invert the natural presentation of architecture. And plus, it's very uncomfortable to take light on our face. It becomes a scary architecture, a horror movie. There is a chart, the chart of Taxco from 2009, with recommendations for heritage illumination. Few people know this document, but it's very important. It says, for example, we consider that the introduction of artificial illumination of historic places requires the establishment of criteria and rules governing proper use so that there is harmony with the monument or city center, that does not conflict with, mutilate, damage, or alter the aesthetic materials or environment. It said it says also, whatever the nature or specific needs of each and every historic place, the incorporation of artificial light under any circumstances does not justify violating or threatening the monument, its history, conservation, character, environment, or economy. So there is a chart for heritage illumination. LED lighting is bringing some problems regarding human comfort as well as architectural presentation. Its characteristic of producing cut-out shadows is a problem for human perception, create a dramatic change from light to shadow that can be hazardous even for the safety of car drivers and pedestrians. We can observe from these images, from day and at night time, the ill-placed lamp lights with the excessive luminous intensity, and the cut-out shadows produced by the uneven distribution of the lamps, and the inverted hierarchy of space also. The old Castor Tower at left is totally in the dark at night. This is a city hall in a city near Lisbon, Setúbal, and years ago it is a beautiful building, and this pink red color is adequate to the historical age of the building. But now there is a kind of fashion about colors that don't belong to our history, and they are completely inappropriate in terms of historical relationship with the building. The same bad taste that ruled the choice of an appropriate color during the day also rule this presentation at night, also completely inadequate of an institutional building. We have lights everywhere, more and more powerful. Light pollution is a real problem in the main big cities of the world. It's like we have a lot of money and resources to spend, but it's not true. We have the right to the night. We have the right to have dark skies, to see the stars, and we have to go back and start again from darkness to light. We should try to apply illumination adequate to historical centers, trying when possible to adapt the old position and characteristics of illumination. We also have to remember that color temperature of artificial light was warm, deriving from fire. LED are transforming night perception where is colder temperature, inverting circadian rhythms. This is a bad example of the transformation between the old sodium lamps and the new LEDs. This is before intervention. You can see that there is an even illumination of this square with no dark areas. And you can even look at the lamps because they are protected with opaline glass. The LED lighting brought um, areas of high intensity and areas of darkness, and in addition you cannot look at the lamps. Without the glass, the diodes from LED lights are completely directed over our eyes. I will present you some works that we have done with some reflections upon the use of illumination on historical buildings. This is a fortification in Alentejo, and the project focused on the wall and barbican restoration. Part of the restoration project was focused on illumination. And here we have two problems. One, to choose the type of illumination, color temperature, etc. We know that we want a low intensity illumination. And the other problem is that everything that we put here could be very impositive in terms of design and the relationship with the old walls. This is not the final product, but the idea is to have a head with light that could be directed to the four sides of this cube, and this should be fixed on a pole, an iron pole with this oxide red color that goes very well with the earth and the color of the stones. This picture was taken after the intervention, and you can see the poles attached to the wall, and when you are walking on the wall, you just see about 30 centimeters of the pole, and the light will be directed into the ground So it will be very low, and it will enhance the pavement, the roughness of the pavement. This is complex work of a fortress restoration in Jurumania, Alentejo, in Portugal, and we were able to produce a color study and a light study within the project. It's a beautiful heritage site with hundreds and hundreds of history. The color survey on the site pointed to a remarkable coincidence of color tonalities, making the concept of color logi something that we should take in account when producing color studies for heritage. This is the final palette of the site. You can see at left side that the colors are all alike, from the color of the earth, the color of the earth's wall from the Arabs, the color from the mortar of the 18th century, and the colors from the stones. And on the right you can see the colors from ceramics and some interior finishings. And this is the final report uh, presenting the position of colors in NCS color system. And this is the final report presenting the samples and the position of the colors in the NCS color system. The main concepts for illumination at night. The outside walls will have a low intensity and warm illumination. The path between the entry and the church will have colder temperature, emphasizing the main elements of architecture, and we will have more intensity in lighting over the door. Here is a simulation looking at the entry of the fortress. We can see the emphasis of intensity over the door, the entrance, and the emphasis also on the church with a different color temperature. Another view from the river, where you can observe the low intensity lighting and also the difference in color temperature from the walls to the church. The last example that we are going to present is a light study for a regional museum in Beja, Portugal. The main problem with this building is that it is completely subdued by the strong intensity illumination of the theater nearby. Also, the main architectural feature is a Manuelian style portal that is now completely unnoticed in the building at night. Rooted on our historical research, we try with the light the study to regain the importance of the axis that rise the stairs and pass through the manual in Portugal, and even with the direction upward of the tower. You can see here the main objectives in this light simulation, and the general light project that formalizes these objectives at various levels of illumination. So as a conclusion, I would like to state the importance of the presentation of architecture, seen as the perception of its identity through form and derived from materials, colors, textures, and finishes, is an essential concept for the architecture's identity, value, and aesthetical appraisal. So when observing architecture under daylight, all those features are judged in their original status, as the architect conceived them. The illumination at night time can maintain the unity and coherence of the architectural object, considering the necessary limitations of nocturnal presentation, or can destroy it through idiosyncratic approaches looking for personal aesthetic recognition. These actions could be valid if they were ephemeral, or if they were due to the architect's desire as author of the building, but should never be carried out in heritage or qualified buildings in which the authors are no longer present to be able to agree or not with this kind of approach.
I hope you have enjoyed this lecture. Me and José Aguiar, we are available to any contact that you want to make and discuss our work or any other issues related to this field of knowledge. And I hope to see you soon. Thank you.